Hi there. I briefly want to tell you about Growing Young, a programme Gillespie Memorial Church became involved in with a bunch of churches across Scotland with the Fuller Youth Institute from the US. And it's a message that comes with the idea of growing young, that young people need the body of Christ and vice versa. The body of Christ, the church, needs young people. And so a team from Gillespie, myself, Lynn, Katrina, Lorna, Aileen and our new youth pastor Lee have been on a journey for the past year or so. We've attended online summits and workshops, and we've got feedback from our people at Gillespie. And really it is about 6 core commitments. It's about unlocking keychain leadership. It's about empathizing with young people today, taking Jesus' message seriously, fueling a warm community. We love warmth in our community. Prioritising young people and their families everywhere in our church. And lastly, being the best neighbours we can be. We listened. There are some word clouds Lynn pulled out from these listening questions that are on the screen now. What people loved and love about church. There was testimony, prayer, fellowship, belonging, worship, being community. And we asked what a highlight or experience of growing up in church for people was. And again, people mentioned people, safe place, relationships, warmth, family. These words keep coming up. And lastly, we asked what hopes and dreams for young people today and in the future would be. And again, it was them being loved, them discovering faith and acceptance and belonging, and yes, believing in the good news of Christ. Those word clouds you've just seen will be up on Facebook and our website. But now I want to delve a little deeper and bring Lynn and Lee into the conversation. Hi Lynn, can you please explain a little of what we have been doing as a team since October 2020 with Growing Young?
Yeah, no problem. So since October of last year, we have attended 4 webinars, which have been on a Wednesday evening, where we just meet as all the churches together and hear different sections on each of the core commitments. We've then attended 3 weekend summits, which have been a Friday night and a Saturday afternoon, to dig deeper into each of these core commitments and be shown strategies of how we can make the change happen and that happen in the right way. I personally have attended 2 coaching calls with our coach Pamela, and we have had 1 coaching hour, which is we're teamed with 2 or 3 other churches, and with Pamela we have answered some questions and just had time together to get ideas from each other and see where each of us are going. So that's where we've got so far.
That's excellent. And it has been a really good year as a team as we've been working through this together. Lee, you came in partway through the year. We'd already started this, but when you started in January. So what do you think the impact of this process of Growing Young has had on the team, ourselves, but also for you coming in partway through?
Yeah, I think for me it's been a case of I've been quite, I'd maybe say surprised at actually how good Growing Young is. I've obviously come into it sort of as it's already started and kind of just joined in and was trying to figure it out for myself. But as I suppose coming up 6 months as time has gone on, I've very much felt comfortable with it. I think it's a really great thing, and I think it's the sort of channel you want to be going down as a church. And so I think looking at youth ministry, you know, some of the core commitments, 3 of the core commitments are empathy today, best neighbours, and warm relationships. And I think for me in youth ministry, I think that's these are some of the most important things. And to know that for Growing Young that these are 3 important core commitments helps me in my own ministry, and it sort of just, I suppose, solidifies where I think personally where the youth ministry needs to go in Gillespie. And so I think if the youth ministry is similar to what we're trying to do in church as a whole, if you want to call it adult church, then I think that's a really good thing. And so, I think for young people, all they want is warm relationships and for us to be the best neighbours that we can possibly be to them. And I think for us adults, there's that call to be empathetic to young people today. And oftentimes we'll look at the younger generation and I think I'm still involved in that younger generation, but I think the older generation might look at young folk today and not have that much empathy for them. And actually, the reality is, it needs to be there. The empathy needs to be there, because young people are having such a hard time. They've got so many different things facing them. So if we as a church are able to show that empathy to them, that I think that's going to go a long way to sort of bring us round to this place of growing as a younger church wholly.
So is that what you think part of you hope and pray the impact will be? And what do you think, Lynn, the impact of growing young will be at GMC?
I think for me, the impact I would like to see is that we can have a multi-generational church where the young people feel they're welcomed into the congregation and not just they come along because their parents are there or something like that, but that they can also have a relationship with an older member of the congregation and have somebody that they could maybe just phone during the week or send a card to and just say, how are you doing? And have that relationship that some people don't have with an older member in the congregation.
What about you, Lee?
Yeah, I think Lynn's hit the nail on the head with, I think traditionally church is always seen as, if I speak to my mates, they always see church as this thing that's for older people, and it really isn't. And so it's trying to figure out, how do you change that mindset? And I think it's like Lynn says, it's getting young people along that see this place, that see church generally, but see Gillespie as a place that's not only for, mum and dad or granny and granddad, but actually is a place for them as well. And so, trying to start things like, I suppose in my youth ministry, but also stuff with open house that you've heard about before, things like that. I think if we can create places like that, then that is what's going to speak to young people. But also, not only that, if they see, people in the church who are wanting to be part of that, who are wanting and longing to make a difference in young people's lives and get alongside them and create relationships with them and have friendship with them, that speaks volumes for young people. And I don't think we understand how much that impacts them, but it really, really does.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And so as we've come to the end of this first year, the Kirk session agreed that we're going to go into a second year of the program with the Fuller Youth Institute, with other churches who are going to go into a second year. So what do you both believe will be most important for the family of GMC, all of people in GMC, to be doing, to be involved in relation to growing our church young?
Yeah, I think for me, first and foremost is obviously, maybe it's the Christian answer, but I think prayer is, without prayer, there's no point in doing anything. And so, yes, that's really important. So do that first, but also that kind of isn't a cop out for not having to do anything else, sort of thing. There's a lot of practical things that can be going on. There's a lot of, give them a call, give mum and dad a call, give the families a call, meet up with them, have a coffee with them. Young people specifically, over in the Gillespie Centre on a Sunday, we're doing youth church, but that doesn't mean you're not allowed to pop your head in and say hello and see what's going on and coming over. You're allowed to do these things. It's not sort of disjointed. You go to the sanctuary and that's you go home. We're sitting over there having a good time, but if you popped your head in, that would be amazing. We'd love to see that. Because we want to get to know everyone in church and like Lynn says, create that sort of intergenerational church. So hopefully, I think for me, that would be the best thing. If folk who are in sort of main church were to come over and be a bit more practical and be a bit more hands-on and show that, that there's really saying to the young people, we care that you're here and we want to see you. That's what's really massive, I think.
What are you hoping, Lynn, for the people to be doing?
For me, I hope that we can have, like Lee says, the the church praying for us as a team and as a congregation to have that intergenerational where we can all come together and be a church and not just have the youth on a Sunday in the centre and the adults in the sanctuary having their service, where we can come together as a whole church and do things as a church family and not just on a Sunday, so that we could, even if it is online or in person, but meet and go for a walk or meet and have a coffee or have something in the church garden in the summer. But that the older generation of the church would take on the change that is going to come slowly, and not step back and be like, oh no, we don't like this, and that the change will happen so that we can have more youngsters in the church and have an intergenerational congregation where the young people feel welcomed and it's a safe space for them to be.
Thank you both. I'm praying, and I know you are too, that people will engage. So thank you both, and let's go forward and grow our church young. God bless.